High prices of food actually and inflation is the number one concern of our kababayans, of our countrymen today. If we are to view the results of polling from the SWS Pulse Asia, ang number one na concern ay ang presyo ng mga bilihin. Particular dito, ang presyo ng pagkain. Up to 70% of the income of our poorest kababayans go to food. So you can imagine pag mataas ang presyo ng pagkain, ng bigas, talagang hindi lang malapit sa bituka, as we would call it, no? Kung hindi nasa bituka mismo ang sakit, no? And the suffering. Food security is basic. Food is fundamental. And the country or any society must address food security. And food security is basically access to affordable food, access to affordable and nutritious food, healthy food. Parang ano yan tubig, parang hangin. Pag wala kang pagkain, mamamatay ka. Pag wala kang hangin, wala kang tubig, di ba? It has a direct bearing on, obviously, the quality of life. And yet, over 1 million households, families, are impoverished and experience hunger. 30% of our children ages 0 to 6 are suffering from varying degrees of stunting due to poor nutrition. Hindi tama. The food prices in the Philippines are so high relative to our ASEAN neighbors. Pork, the price of pork in Thailand and Vietnam is a third or one half the price of our pork here in the country. Chicken, 1/3 ang presyo ng manok sa Thailand at Vietnam kumpara sa Pilipinas. Gutom ang kapalit nito. And why is this so? What makes us food insecure? Bakit ang mahal-mahal ng bigas? Bakit ang mahal-mahal ng sibuyas? Pati ang gulay. At bakit tayo nag-i-import ng napakarami ng ating food items, agriculture products? Half the country's population is in the rural areas, and the main source of livelihood actually is agriculture and fishing. And yet, when the data is examined, 31% of our farmers live in abject poverty, and 30% of our fisherfolk live below the poverty line. More than double, actually. Or halos doble rather than the national average. And this really must be addressed. This is not a laughing matter. We are actually producing a generation of stunted Filipinos whose capacity to learn and brain and development is adversely affected by poor nutrition. Mahirap matuto, mahirap mag-aral, mahirap magpalakas ng kapasidad kung gutom ang ating mga anak. At mahirap maghanap ng trabaho, mahirap maging productive, mahirap maging gainfully employed pag ang una mong iniisip ay ginugutom ka. Hindi ba? So that has to be addressed. Food security actually is intimately related with good governance. Before Farmally, many of you are probably familiar sa Farmally scandal, yung bilyong-bilyong halaga ng pondo dapat para sa health COVID response ay binulsa at ninakaw at winaldas. overpriced na mga test kits, overpriced na mga masks, and so many other anomalies. But before Farmally, the biggest corruption scandals were actually in the agriculture sector. Some of you probably are aware or know of yung Napoles scam. That's about 10 billion pesos worth of agri-budget allocations na napunta sa mga bogus na mga farmers and fisherfolk organizations. Another scandal sa corruption, yung fertilizer scam. Daang-daang milyong pisong halaga ng budget para sa pataba, para sa fertilizer ay nauwi sa corruption. Meron ding swine scam, bilyong pisong halaga ng pondo para sa livestock ay nauwi din sa pagbubulsa. So the biggest scandals actually were in the agriculture sector. It's also no joke, yung NFA, nung panahon na ito ay nag-i-import ng bigas, overpriced, malaki ang pinapatong mga komisyon, hindi mahabol-habol ang mga hoarder, ang mga smuggler ng bigas, dahil yung mga bilyong halaga na pinapasok na smuggle na produkto ay napakalaki ng kinikita, kaya pati ang gobyerno, ang nasa gobyerno, ang dapat na nagbabantay, in Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Customs, kasabwat na rin dito sa pagpasok ng illegal na bigas. So corruption and misgovernance has a direct bearing on our food security. Bakit 700 pesos ang isang kilo, na naging 700 pesos ang isang kilo ng sibuyas? Dahil mayroong nag-hoard. At bakit hino-hoard? Siyempre, pag tumaas ang presyo, limpak-limpak ang salapi, nakikitain. Paano? Hindi ito nahuhuli. Alam naman kung sino ang nag-import niyan. Kilala naman kung sino ang mga warehouse na yan. Nakarehistrado yan. May mga inspection dapat yan. Pero dahil nga kasangkot at kasabwat, isang sistema na kasabwat ang ilang mga opisyal ng gobyerno, sa BOC, sa DA, tumataas ang presyo. No? Government who are supposed to be, government officials who are supposed to be championing the cause of the farmers, instead of doing that, they look the other way because the traders, the smugglers, the rice cartel, if you can call it that, malaki ang pera na ginugugol para manahimik o magwawalang kibo na lang ang nasa gobyerno. And that's why good governance is important. And not just in words, but in deeds. No? When I was Food Security Secretary, for example, and Chairman of the Board of the National Food Authority, we actually went after these traders and smugglers. Sinampahan natin ng kaso. Ang mga ito, kinumpiska natin ang halos kalahating bilyong pisong halaga ng illegal smuggled rice as well as diverted NFA rice. We filed cases against NFA personnel in cahoots with these traders. We filed cases against these traders. And we managed the country's rice supply. We stopped corruption. For the first time in the 42-year history of NFA, for example, we rejected the bids of Thailand and Vietnam for being overpriced. Mataas ang presyo. 4 times we did it in a period of 1 year, and 4 times after rejecting them based on our rules, they were allowed to submit a second offer if they wanted to, and they did. And every time they submitted the second offer, The second offer was lower than the first one. Kaya naman pala. And because of that, we stood our ground and said that we are going to buy it at this price. And they agreed. We were able to save 7 billion government funds. Apart from this, of course, it was an open and transparent process. Kaya naman pala na walang tongpats. And the result, we were able to reduce rice prices in self-sufficient areas. But overall, from 15% rice inflation in 2014 June, it went down to 0.8% rice inflation nationwide. But in some areas, rice prices actually went down by 2 to almost 3 pesos per kilo. And we did that because of good governance in that sense. No? Hindi tayo pumayag na bumili ng bigas o mag-import sa mataas na presyo. Hindi tayo pumayag na magkaroon ng hoarding at diversion ng NFA rice. Hindi tayo pumayag na in cahoots ang mga kasamahan natin sa gobyerno. Sinampahan natin ng kaso. Dineputize pa natin ang CIDG, yung Criminal Investigation Division group ng PNP, and ang head nun, he was still a enlisted active official of the PNP, was Benjamin Magalong, a no-nonsense mayor today of Baguio City. But then, talagang hinabol natin itong mga mapagsamantala. At nakita ng stakeholders na seryoso tayo. Kaya napababa natin ang presyo ng bigas. Kaya namang gawin kung talagang we insist. So it's really good governance. No? Why are our farmers continue to be poor rather? Unless you secure our farmers and our fisherfolk, we cannot secure our food. And so good governance is ensuring that we put the right policies in place to address a most fundamental basic need, the right and access to affordable food. And we can only do that if the productivity and incomes of our farmers and our fisherfolk, our food producers, go up. No? Malaki ang binopondohan ng ibang bansa sa agriculture. Thailand is spending double what the Philippines is spending for agriculture, the government. Vietnam is spending triple. And both countries, Vietnam and Thailand, have less mouths to feed. We have than the Philippines. Thailand has about 70 million population. Vietnam is about 90 million population, and we are 117 million. Millions more mouth to feed, and yet we're not. Government is not spending as much compared to Vietnam and Thailand. So it's really a challenge. Government policy, good governance includes the right policies, and we really have to invest in agriculture. We are not investing enough. And proof of this, let me just check it's over here. The data for 2022, just to give you, the idea of how far behind we are in agriculture investments. Talagang the Philippines exported 7 billion pesos worth, $7 billion worth of agri-products last year, 2022. $7 billion plus. Indonesia exported $51 billion worth of agri-exports. Thailand, $42 billion. Malaysia, $33 billion. Vietnam, $23 billion. Singapore, which does not even have land, $14 billion worth of agri-exports. They traded that. Tamang tayo, $7 billion. We're not spending enough for agriculture. We're not investing enough. At the little that we are investing, ninanakaw pa. So good governance is important. We can bring down, make sure that every peso counts in our investments in agriculture. And if they see that government is serious in investing in agriculture, the private sector will follow. But if they see that the government is not serious, is not spending enough, is not investing enough, why will the private sector invest in agriculture? So these are the challenges of good governance. And mind you, ito ang isa sa mga ironies. Yung Vietnam, yung Thailand, sa atin nag-aral. Sa UP Los Baños, sa College of Forestry, sa College of Agriculture, sa atin nag-aral ang mga yan. Kaya nakakalungkot. But your generation of young Filipinos must take on the cudgels. I will end with this. Other countries were able to address the challenges of food security. There's no reason why we cannot. And that's why good governance is critical. So kayong mga kabataan, tiyakin na ang henerasyon ninyo pipiliin yung mga karapat-dapat at tutulong sa paghubog ng ating lipunan. We can overcome the challenges of food security and good governance in the country, but we have to make a stand and be involved. Maraming salamat and